What if you were told that in the ideal future, there is no room for books? Instead, endless television screens, drug-induced calm, and a ban on any questions. And now imagine that your job is not to save people from fire, but to burn paper. The very paper on which thoughts are printed. Welcome to a world where the burning point of books is 451 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's the only number firefighters know. Hello, dear viewers of Mega Room. Today we're breaking down a novel often called the most prophetic work of the 20th century. Fahrenheit 451 by Bradbury is not just a dystopia. It's a warning that becomes more relevant every year. The book is part of the mandatory curriculum in the US and Canada, and today you'll understand why. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now and hit the bell. We're going to talk about how literature teaches us to be human. Let's go. The story takes place in an unnamed American city in a distant future. The main character, Guy Montag, is a firefighter, but he doesn't put out fires. In this world, houses are built with fireproof materials, and firefighters' job is to burn books. Books are forbidden because they make people think, feel complex emotions and doubt. And the future society wants only one thing: blissful happiness. No conflicts, no depth, no questions. Happiness sold in the form of 24/7 entertainment shows on giant television screens covering entire walls. Guy Montag is initially satisfied with his work. He comes home to his wife, Mildred. Her life consists of 3 screens built into the living room. She watches relatives, characters from an endless series, and considers them her real family. She takes sleeping pills, forgets how many she swallowed, and Montag has to call a special team to pump her stomach. Those people work like machines, emotionless, nameless. They just perform the procedure. Mildred lives in a world of illusions. Her real husband is just an annoyance. Bradbury shows us a consumer society where relationships are replaced by goods and genuine intimacy has vanished. Now imagine how Clarice McClellan appears against this background, a 17-year-old girl who lives in the same neighborhood. She is different from everyone else. Her family doesn't watch television at night. They talk, walk in the rain, smell flowers. Clarice asks Guy a simple question: "Are you happy?" And that simple question shatters his world. Montag suddenly realizes he is not happy. He is a machine. He burns because that's the rule. This is where his internal transformation begins. What do you think is scarier, when the state bans books or when people stop reading on their own? Bradbury wrote the novel in 1953 when television was just beginning its triumphant march across America. He saw families stop talking at dinner, children glued to screens instead of playing outside. He warned, if we don't fight for our attention, we will lose the ability to think critically. That's why Fahrenheit 451 is studied in US and Canadian schools when discussing freedom of speech and the First Amendment. The novel shows that censorship can be not only violent, but also voluntary. People themselves choose light entertainment over complex books. Montag begins secretly collecting books. He hides them in the ventilation of his house. He is helped by an old professor named Faber, whom he met in the park. Faber is one of the few remaining intellectuals. He explains to Montag that books don't just need readers. They need readers willing to engage deeply. Books are only containers, Faber says. It's what's inside them that matters. And he gives Montag a small radio transmitter to guide his actions from a distance. Montag's mentor, Captain Beatty, is a complex character. He is smart, well-read, yet he is the enemy of books. Beatty explains how it all began. According to him, books were shortened, simplified, retold for a mass audience. Then television appeared and people stopped reading altogether. Then someone noticed that some books offended certain groups and caused discomfort to others, and society began demanding their removal. It wasn't the government that insisted, Beatty says. It was the people who demanded to remove what bothered them. Bradbury warns, democracy can lead to soft censorship if the majority votes to ban challenging literature. This is a crucial lesson for American and Canadian students. Free speech is the right to difficult dialogue. One key episode: a call to burn books at an old woman's house. The old woman refuses to leave her home full of books. She douses herself with kerosene and lights herself on fire. She prefers death to a life without books. Montag is shocked. He realizes that books are worth human lives, but he also realizes that a society that destroys knowledge does not deserve to survive. This moment is the turning point in the novel. Have you ever wondered why the title is exactly Fahrenheit 451? It's the ignition temperature of paper. Bradbury could have named the book The Fireman or The Burner, but he chose a cold scientific number. It symbolizes the soulless machine of destruction. In schools, this technique is studied as an example of how a title can work on multiple levels. Literal, metaphorical, and even auditory, the number sticks in memory. This is part of the analysis of literary devices. Montag kills Captain Beatty. In a scene where they argue, Montag turns the flamethrower on his mentor. Betty does not resist. He knew this was coming. After that, Montag becomes a fugitive. A mechanical hound, a robot programmed to hunt, is sent after him. News helicopters with cameras broadcast the chase live. Millions of viewers watch it as entertainment. Bradbury predicted not only reality TV but also online harassment and the hunting of enemies on social media. For today's student, this is one of the scariest moments. We recognize ourselves in those viewers. Montag flees the city. He finds a group of drifters by the railroad tracks. They are former professors, writers, priests. They don't burn books, they memorize them. Each of them has become a living book. One remembers Darwin's Origin of Species. Another remembers Melville's Moby Dick. A third remembers the poems of William Blake. They are waiting for the day when society will collapse, and they can once again pass on knowledge. This is the central metaphor of the novel. Knowledge cannot be destroyed as long as living people preserve it. In an educational context, this is a powerful symbol of the teacher's role. A teacher is not someone who gives ready answers, but someone who preserves the ability to think even in the darkest times. Parallel to this, the plotline of war develops. The novel constantly mentions that war is inevitable. Enemy planes bomb cities. At the end of the book, they drop an atomic bomb on Montag's hometown. The explosion destroys everything. Houses, people, television screens, books. But the drifters survive because they are outside the city. They do not lose heart. The final lines, "When dawn comes, we will be on our way again." This is not pessimism. It is hope for rebirth. Bradbury shows that even after the complete destruction of civilization, there remain those who remember and can pass it on. Why is this novel mandatory in us and Canadian schools? First, it is directly connected to the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees freedom of speech. Teachers use the novel to discuss the limits of that freedom. Should we protect books that offend someone? Second, the novel is a reaction to McCarthyism. In the 1950s, Senator Joseph McCarthy organized a witch hunt against unreliable citizens, forcing people to inform on each other. Libraries removed books suspected of anti-American propaganda. Bradbury said his book is not about a totalitarian state, but about how society cages itself by choosing comfort over truth. Third, the novel helps discuss media literacy. The Canadian education system especially emphasizes critical media analysis. Fahrenheit 451 provides perfect material for discussions about how advertising, TV shows, and social media shape our desires. For Canadian schools, the novel is also important in the context of cultural identity. Canada is often overshadowed by American cultural dominance. Many Canadians watch the same shows and read the same news as Americans. Bradbury shows the danger of local culture disappearing under the onslaught of mass entertainment. Studying the novel helps Canadian students ask themselves, what distinguishes us from our neighbors? What books, films, ideas should we preserve? Every teacher who takes this novel into the classroom asks the same questions. How do you spend your attention? How many hours a day do you spend on social media? How many on reading? Bradbury was not against technology, he was against technology replacing live communication and thought. In the novel, people have seashells, earbuds they never take out, even while eating. This was written in 1953, half a century before the invention of AirPods. The educational value here is not to ban gadgets, but to realize who controls your attention, you or algorithms. Another important point. The novel is often misunderstood as a call for intellectual elitism, as if ordinary people are incapable of reading complex books. That's not what Bradbury means. He shows that a society that rejects depth becomes easy prey for manipulators. Without books, we lose the ability to empathize, to put ourselves in another's shoes. And without empathy, democracy is impossible. When Montag reads poetry to his drugged-out wife and her friends, they start crying. Not from understanding, but because they feel something they cannot name. That is awakening. Regarding exam and essay structure, in US and Canadian schools, students often write analytical papers on Fahrenheit 451. Typical topics include the symbolism of fire in the novel, Mildred as a victim of consumer society, Clarice's role as a catalyst for Montag's change, comparing the dystopias of Orwell and Bradbury. We have covered all these aspects. Fire is both destruction and purification. At the beginning, fire kills knowledge. At the end, it destroys the city to make way for something new. Mildred is a symbol of a person who sold her soul to screens. She is not evil. She is miserable. Clarice is the voice of nature, childhood, curiosity. Her death shows that the system does not need those who ask questions. Symbols. The phoenix, the mythical bird that rises from the ashes. Bradbury mentions the phoenix at the end. Humanity, like the phoenix, must burn to be reborn. But this time with memory. The mechanical hound symbolizes soulless justice, a robot that knows no doubt. Seashells are earbuds that isolate a person from reality. The television walls are a metaphor for the filter bubble we live in today. Finally, Fahrenheit 451 is not a book about punishment or fear. It is a book about choice. Montag could have remained a firefighter, burned books, been happy. He chose exile, flight, uncertainty, but he chose freedom. For Canadian and American students, this is a crucial lesson in civic responsibility. Democracy rests not on rulers, but on citizens willing to ask uncomfortable questions. And reading books is the first step to becoming such a citizen, Bradbury wrote. You have no obligations to society except one, to be a person. This is the perfect epigraph for any graduate. Thank you for being with Omega Room. Hit like if this breakdown helped you understand the novel. Subscribe so you don't miss new videos about literature that changed the world. And in the comments, tell us, what scares you more? A world where books are burned or a world where no one reads them? See you next time.